The lobbies are open and recording is now.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. We'll convene the Liquor and Cannabis Board Caucus meeting for May 9th, 2023. Our first item on the agenda today is a rules update and some prep for tomorrow's board meeting. And I'll turn it over to Kathy Hoffman, the research manager, to get your new title right. Yeah, you're the research manager as well as acting rules manager, but yeah.
Yes.
And her team of Daniel Jacobson and Cassidy West. Morning, everybody.
Good morning, Chair Postman and Daniel and Cassidy are going to join today in case there's any questions about the projects that they're working on today. So good morning to you, Board Member Garrett and Board Member Vollendroff. Last week I did go over a pretty comprehensive review of all the things that we're working on. So today it'll be a little briefer, or more brief, I should say. But I'll just go ahead and start with cannabis rules in progress. I don't think that there's any updates to provide, very many updates at least, from what we provided last week. So with respect to mailing checks in 3 days, that's a project Jeff is working on. No change since the last time we met. We do plan on bringing a CR 103 to the board by September. So we hope that that project's completed by then. With respect to implementation of Senate Bill 5367, that's been combined with cannabis sampling project, and Cassidy is working on both of those. I just want to say we don't have a signed bill on 5367 yet, so a little hard to move forward on that one until we have a site that we can cite to in the CR 101. So we're waiting on that, but we do have a reasonable time. Go ahead.
I just say, and for the record, you're talking about the THC bill.
Yes, my apologies. Yes, so we think in numbers and roles. So yes, that is the THC bill. Please don't hesitate to stop and say, hey, time out. I don't know what you're talking about on those numbers. Thank you for that. Anyway, under the timeline, and we're just hoping that we do have a signed bill with a site. We'll bring the 101 to you on June 7th or thereabout with finalization time sometime towards the end of January on that one. And on cannabis sampling, the 101 was filed in March already, so we do hope to have that completed probably early to mid-December, but trying to do those in tandem because they have similar concerns in each of them. And then with respect to implementation of the social equity bill, also known as 5080, I will be bringing the CR 101 to you on June 21st. We do have a signed bill there, so we do have a citation we can work on in that. And at this point, my hope is to have that work done by December 20th, before the end of the year, before the next session starts. If we can complete it sooner than that, that would be great. But social equity is a complex issue, and the 5080 brings us some additional complexity to rule development. So any questions before we get into rule petitions on the cannabis side? Because we do have two. And again, updated this last week. We do have a petition response that we'll bring to you on the 7th. Cassidy will likely do that concerning the revision of pesticide action limits that are currently in WAC 314-55-108. And that does concern pesticide action limits. So we're working on the draft response to that right now. And then also received a response a petition a couple of weeks ago concerning number 8 in the social equity scoring rubric. And that has to do with the ownership and operation of medical cannabis dispensaries during a certain period of time and within DIA. So there's a question about that. We may be able to combine that with the social equity work, but still working on the petition response there. We do have a withdrawal that we're going to be doing tomorrow. I'll kick it over to Daniel in a minute to talk about that. But that has to do with the social equity emergency rules that we put in place to extend the application window. And since that's now concluded, we don't need those rules anymore. So Daniel will speak to that briefly. So any questions on cannabis rules in progress, petitions? Okay.
None.
Nope.
All right.
See none.
All right. I hope that means that we briefed you pretty well last week. Hope.
I think
Okay.
we're up to date. Yep.
Okay, good. All right. So with respect to liquor rules in progress and general rules in progress, Daniel will be combining the Mass 13 work. So that was a petition we received last year, I believe, late last year. He'll be combining that with any additional work that we need to do with the alcohol bill that extends and makes permanent some of the COVID-19 allowances, also known as Substitute Senate Bill 5448 for a number of people out there. And we anticipate that that will happen on or about July 5th. That's what we're shooting for. I will be bringing a rule package to you, a 101, on May 24th concerning trade areas. So that's expanding or providing an exemption for some of the trade area limitations that are in rule right now. And I do hope to have that project done by October 11th. There may be some complexities there, but we think we can work through those pretty rapidly. Private club memberships, I believe Jeff's working on that project, and we did have an open period, or we do have an open period for folks to comment on draft conceptual rules by email. That rule change was just adding some additional time for club memberships, or I'm sorry, clubs to have some additional membership drive time. So we just did follow up on that by email rather than doing a listen and learn session. Also, with respect to implementation of the COVID-19 allowances in Substitute Senate Bill 5448, the other component of that implementation is just some mandatory changes that came by way of the legislation that really don't require us to go into standard rulemaking. And there's a couple of ways we can do that. The first is through the expedited rule process. That's something that's laid out in the APA, Administrative Procedures Act. The other way that we can do that is what's called an exception process. That allows us to bring a 102 to the board without providing a 101 because the rules being implemented are mandated by statute. And that's what happened with parts of 5448. That is extending the sunset on alcohol delivery and making takeout services permanent, and then making outdoor service permanent, provisions of that as well. So those are things that we don't need to go through the standard rulemaking process for. So I'll be bringing that to you on May 24th. So that's the last board meeting of May. And that would set a public hearing for, and we're going to do a little different process. We need to, we'll do some additional messaging on this, but we'll do a public hearing on that either before or after caucus, I believe on the 27th of June. And that way we'll be able to bring the 103 to the board on July 5th, which is just a couple of days after that law goes into effect. So that will provide regulatory and business continuity for our businesses who are operating in that space and rely on those services to help them during and after the COVID-19 pandemic. So that's a little different process for us. It's not one that a lot of agencies use very often, but it is available to us through the Administrative Procedures Act, and it made sense to use it here to make sure that businesses had that stability. Let's see, any questions on that before I move on to the other implementation?
I have none.
Okay, all right. There is some additional implementation of liquor legislation that Daniel's working on, and that has to do with 21-year-olds working, or persons between 18 and 21 working in liquor establishments, liquor privileges and short-term rentals, and prohibiting alcohol and cannabis from being combined in products. Daniel's tentatively have the CR 101 ready to go for you on that on May 24th. So May 24th, we'll have a couple of things on the agenda for you. And then with respect to global entry ID cards, no changes there. We do plan on bringing a CR 103 to you by September 27th. And then the other change I wanted to just bring to your attention is Daniel will be following up on cloud storage. We did have that as a combined project, a shared project before, but Daniel will be working on that and closing up that project moving forward now that the I think the survey closed yesterday, right, Daniel? Pretty sure it did.
It did, yes. It
Okay.
closed yesterday.
Okay, so we'll be able to have some set the course on that once we get a chance to take a look at that survey and really kind of understand what's going on, whether what we need to do is guidance or rulemaking. But we'll know more after we review the survey results. And then finally, Daniel is working on a rule petition response to Mr. Gerard. As you might remember, we denied a petition that he submitted at the last board meeting. And within a few hours, he submitted a new rule petition that's actually citing to a rule. Daniel is working on that response and should have it to you for presentation on June 21st. And I think that is the end of updates on the alcohol side. Any questions on any of that?
I have none.
No, we're good.
Okay. So Daniel, I'll hand it over to you if there's anything additional you'd like to share with the board on your withdrawal of emergency rules tomorrow.
Thank you, Dr. Hoffman. Dr. Hoffman actually did a pretty good job explaining it. As you might remember, the social equity application window was set to close on March 30th. Just as a refresher, we learned that there were some hiccups going on at the Secretary of State's office, and so we thought it prudent to extend the application window from March 30th to April 27th. There were some technical reasons why it should be done for 58 days as opposed to just 60 days. But essentially, that's what happened. We approved the emergency rules. For folks that don't realize, today's May 9th. So April 27th was about 2 weeks ago. The application window closed. Therefore, we don't need the emergency rules anymore. And so tomorrow I'm going to be requesting that we withdraw the emergency rules. And that's pretty much it. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I'll basically be saying that in a little more technical and fancier wording tomorrow. But otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
I think we're
Great.
good. Thank you. We'll wait for the fancy words.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
If I may, Cassidy, anything that you wanted to add or share about what you're working on right now?
Oh, thank you.
No, okay. All right, so that's what we have
Okay.
today.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Hoffman. That's our one item other than our board member and executive assistant reports. Got a few quick things. Check with Dustin real quick if there's anything to share today.
The only thing I would point out is to note that we have an abbreviated executive management team tomorrow. We have a number of people that are a part of the team and staff that help us with the executive management team meetings that are going to be participating in the Public Service Recognition Week event on the east lawn of the Capitol campus. And in order to allow them enough time to get cleaned up and come back to the office, we're going to start at 2:30. We're going to still end around the same time, 3:30. So it's an abbreviated meeting that starts at 2:30 instead of 1:30.
Okay, yeah. So if someone's watching and for staff, 2:30 tomorrow for EMT, but we will still get folks out by 3:30. Thanks. Couple of quick things. One, I'm going to be in transit tomorrow, so Member Garrett will be acting as chair for tomorrow's board meeting. Then I wanted to just give a quick overview on our search for a new director of the agency. As I'm sure folks who are listening know, our director, longtime director, Rick Arzer, retires July 1, and we're in the process of searching. Things are going well. We are to the point of search where we have a smaller group that we're going to be doing interviews with. The board members have been talking to some applicants just one-on-one. What we're going to start today is a group of employees who we've selected will be interviewing a group of candidates. They'll do the same on Thursday, I think it is. And then next week, the board will convene a meeting, go into executive session to also conduct interviews. And so I think time-wise, schedule-wise, we're doing really well. I think we're ahead of the curve to have somebody in place before Rick goes, so they can spend some time working on a transition. We have an all-employee gathering in early June. I would love to have somebody on board by then to at least, even if they haven't started, to come out and meet people at that event, everybody in one room for the first time in 4 years. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. The candidates are great. And we will see how that goes. Anything to report to members?
Nope.
Anything from you? Okay.
Good, thank you.
In closing, the only thing I'll mention, the other exciting news here is that the LCB softball team beat the AG softball team last night, 6-5. So the High Spirits beat the AG's team, which is called Cases Loaded. I think they win the pun prize, but we beat them. Apparently an exciting 7th inning. So thanks to our CFO / sports reporter, Rachel Swanner, for giving me that update this morning. And I think they're doing pretty well. And I think it's just a example of my leadership that I decided not to join the team, and they're doing quite well. I think that was the most valuable thing I could do for our softball team. So someday I'll come and watch. Maybe I'll just watch next Monday night, but and invite you guys down too, of course, to watch a Monday night softball game. Okay, with that, I did say that Ollie's going to be. Didn't I say Ollie's going to be acting chair tomorrow? Okay. Boy, Dustin. Try to keep up. Okay, so yes, I'll be gone for both EMT and the board meeting tomorrow. So have a good one. I'll be in touch, and thanks everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.